Hi everyone, this is Jamie. If you're new to the channel, hi, I'm gay. I'm a professional homosexual, as certain people have been called out on the internet for being such, and I happen to be one of them. Thank you very much for your attention. And basically, today I'm going to be talking about my favorite subject, which I enjoy talking about behind closed doors. And no, it's not sexual because I enjoy talking about sex everywhere. Communism. So people have a lot of kind of different perspectives, whether it works, whether it worked, the literature they read on, whether they reference, whether their relationship with their parents if they were in post-Soviet countries, what their parents saw, what their parents believed, when it comes to World War II, when it comes to remembrance and other things. So the subject isn't just touchy. It's a subject which is really ingrained in us, and depends on the countries you go to. You'll find whether the communistic parties are banned, whether they're allowed, whether there was a massive Red Scare, the definition of communism. So, for instance, you can go to Brazil, and obviously, you have the examples of like ex-communists, like the presidents which got out of jail, which is Lula. I mean, I have to have some Brazilians watching me, right? Someone, Brazucas. Anyway, um, and then you go like obviously into post-Soviet countries, which um, I happen to have origin from, and there you have a massive sort of division. Whether did communism work? Did it not? What were people's stances? What did they go to protest during the 90s to make sure that the Soviet Union would indeed fall? Did they, on the opposite, feel like it shouldn't fall, or do they have regrets? So basically, it's such a complex topic, and obviously, it depends on the communism you're looking at, because you have Maoism as well. But I won't be touching on that one because I don't know it as well, and I will be focusing specifically when it comes to USSR ideology and etc. So I want to preface that I don't feel like I'm the most knowledgeable person on this, but at the same time, like if you're gonna ask me about the general secretaries, I can tell them all in order. So I don't know if that counts as knowledge, for instance. And I was kind of really nervous about this topic as well because the prejudice, like people usually associate communism with certain traits, and right now it's really interesting, and I kind of started identifying more and more and more with communism as I would see the sort of like as social justice rose on Tumblr. There were a lot and a lot and a lot of anarcho-communists. There were a lot of specifically trans people which would relate to communism. And I remember I tried to talk about it on Reddit, and I remember I got banned because my grandparents were called fascists, despite the fact that they were Stalinists. So I was like, oh, well, you're Brazilian and you're literally quoting one guy as your source, while my grandparents were in the parties. Okay, okay. So I kind of didn't step back into their beehive because obviously I was banned. But I had some interesting discussions until I got banned. And in general, I still have a few friends who I follow and I read articles from them. But in general, the more as time progresses, the more I kind of feel drawn to it. And just to preface, today I was rather exhausted because I had a very long week, and then I just woke up like on the couch and I just started like to my partner like, Lucas, we can't achieve communism. And Lucas is like, well, like what the fuck, but keep going, whatever wave he's on, I'll just keep listening. um so yeah, so I kind of got inspired from that event to sit here today and choose communism as my subject. So what I wanted to talk was it's something that has been on my mind a lot, specifically the parallels between COVID and how people react to tragedies, and specifically just different perceptions when it comes to natural disasters or human-induced disasters. So when it comes to COVID, I will keep silence because obviously everyone's getting videos taken down, but I do believe that it's natural source. Basically just like, I don't know, the plague showed out of nowhere, so did COVID. So, but obviously there's a lot of conspiracy theories, there's a lot of people who are investigating, but that is not why I'm here today. Right. So why I bring up COVID is because we have such a natural disaster, right? And this just, and usually when it comes to people, people show their true colors when they are under immense pressure. So for instance, if we take, I know this is a very, very weird comparison, but I have to take something as massive as, for instance, World War II, and we're not going to go into details. I'm just going to say that in World War II, despite everything, despite all the atrocities, I'm going to look at the fact that people still united and they did fight fascism in the end. So yes, of course, there were many, many different angles, political, race issues, and of course, when it came to Jewish people being liberated, there's a good scene in Schindler's List, and in general, Schindler's List kind of sheds a bunch of lights. And the things which are obvious to me to watch are not obvious to other people. So yeah, so there's a famous scene where they get liberated by the Red Army and they ask, where do we go? And they say, well, you go to the west, you'll be hated for being Jewish. You'll go to the east, you'll be hated for being Jewish. So we won't exactly be talking about the Jewish situation, unfortunately. But it's still it's something worth mentioning because people still have tremendous amounts of anti-Semitism. And when it comes to Palestine and Israel, the situations are very, very heated up, very inhumane, and there's a lot to. I don't even want to say unpack because that would be such an understatement, and it would just be me saying, "Oh, there's problems," slapsticker, you know. So it's not something I will be addressing today. And obviously, if you want more of my political commentary, please just like, comments, do something so I can get that. And right now, these days, we don't even have a sort of sense of community because I keep talking about this the fact that the LGBT community, for instance, is very divided. And then you have, even when you look at such things as feminism, right? Even back when it was more divided, you could still see like which ones are the rad femmes, which ones are the Marxist feminists, which ones are the socialist feminists, and you had different waves. Well, right now it's just like modern feminism, and everyone's a fucking TERF at this point. I'm sorry. Everyone is a fucking TERF at this point, or you have those which accept trans women but are still kind of with other radical mentality and ideas, like specifically when you look at the UK, right? Like you have the whole commotion right now which is happening around the fact that guys shouldn't go outside. And then there are like people raise questions like, what about police officers, firemen, doctors, etc., 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 etc. And why are we just focusing on the fact that men are the ones who attack, obviously? And what about men? Are we not allowed to feel safe as well? So there's a lot of friction about that, but the UK is deteriorating as a society in general, so I don't even know how to even address the UK. It's just like there. Because of their turf issues, their racism, their xenophobia, the whole fact that Brexit happens in the first place is fucking traumatic just to even look at, to be honest. So even when we just take the UK and in general Europe's nationalism and the problem of nationality, and even when you look at different minorities, language minorities, right, across the European Union, like you still have different Russian minorities here and there, and everyone sort of tries to unite, for instance, against Russia, like when it came to Belarusia's in well, not incident, but more like the situation with the elections, right? Like you could see people who were nationalists holding hands with other people so that they would all unite together against Russia, or the boogeyman of Russia, as they say. When it comes to Russia, it's a very difficult subject, and I do understand that the laws there are unfair, but where I come from, they're much harsher. And from I see from experience, from talking to other people, from reading reports, from experiencing it myself, like for instance, when I'm back in my home country, well, country of origin, like I've been, I've had everything. Like I don't feel safe walking there. Like I've had fights with like people in the airport just for simply speaking. I'm not safe for being gay. I'm not safe for other issues, and I'm not safe with my name. So I have a bunch of issues which make me a very easy target to even walk on the streets. Like I remember once I went to the mall and I was so fucking terrified that I just like ran into the stores which I needed to, and I just went back into the Uber, like heart just like thumping up billion times per minute, and I really felt uncomfortable. And I was just like, I need to get the fuck out of here. But I understand that it could be my bias, but it could also be because I'm so traumatized from the experiences that I hear, that I've seen, that I've had, because I've had like police take me off the bus for no fucking reason other than just pick on me and other situations, you know? So yeah. So when it comes to such things, like yeah, you can say I generalize. I generalize my home country sometimes, even though I've had good experiences, and I still, you know, I'm from there. But at the same time, I just want rights. But at the same time, I'm very happy the way it's going there, and the fact that we are supposed to be getting, we, the LGBT community, are supposed to be getting more rights, it just excites me and really actually warms my heart. The fact that I will not be seen as a second-rate citizen, and etc. But when it comes to issues of communism, we need to remember that even such acts as like holding hands for Belarusia, united people to have to give democracy to a country while they would not give in their own country when it comes to different speakers or different people of different nationalities and LGBT people as well. So, and the same happens, for instance, in Russia. Like, you have the individualism, which tells you that, and this is a problem. This is a massive problem. Like, I don't think that people got the memo that it's okay to be different, but somehow people managed to spin it into the fact that yes, it's okay to be different, and therefore, because I am different, I'm better than somebody else. That's not the case. That is not the case. And we have that specifically with influencers, and why I brought up COVID in the first place. I'm sorry, I understand that I speak not very simple today, but I really want to get my points across. So when it comes to COVID, you can look at certain countries, for example, and see how did they react to the pandemic, to see whether they even have a sort of sense of mentality of taking care of the others who are more fragile, who need help, who need donations, and etc. For instance, I kind of didn't realize that in many countries, when it came to the vaccine, um, a lot of them aren't mandatory. Like you have to pay for the vaccine. And I realized that was very ignorant from my part because right now where I am in Portugal, like you have to take the vaccine. You are waiting for your turn. And I've spoken to people, I've spoken to friends, I've spoken to different people who moved here recently, because I do enjoy talking to people and finding out their perspective, whether it's on Reddit or social medias. And I've seen people say, like, I want to give back to the country. And I tell them different ways to donate, to support, and etc. Because I've been a volunteer for many years, and I still do it as much as I can, as much as time allows. But right now, obviously, due to COVID and due to the fact that I'm close to finishing my course, I find it very hard to do such things. But I still take people under my wing. I still help when I can, and obviously I donate when I can. But yeah, I remember there were such things such as donation campaigns where you would buy, in Portugal specifically, like olive oil because they needed olive oil for, or oil in general, cooking oil, I mean, for hospitals and for different homes for children, for elder people. And there were instances when the spikes were really high, when like motorcycle groups would all unite together and they would bring food to people who would be in ambulance queues, waiting to, get checked on whether they have COVID or another emergency health issue. And the country kind of rose up in the aspect of that everyone wanted to help, everyone wanted to do their part. Now I know that I will sound maybe kind of like I hate the youths, but I really don't. It's just that I have an issue with the current waves. So I do think that anyone, regardless of where they are, regardless of their age, if you are breaking COVID rules specifically by raving or not wearing a mask, you are being a hazard, you're being an ignorant piece of shit. I'm sorry. So when it comes to influencers, not only do they, during these trying COVID times, they are not. You can take anyone from across the spectrum. You have Tana Mojo, you have James Charles, you have Nikita Dragon, you have Patrick, you have Jeffrey, you have I don't know, all of those random TikTokers like Charlie, Dixie D'Amelio, whatever their names are, and all of the Hype House. Anyway, there's a bunch of TikTokers, and they're all like partying, and they're not wearing masks, and they in general are being hazards to society right now. Like, I don't know how else am I supposed to call them. Like, how am I supposed to say they're not celebrities, they're just people who you open, I don't know, a video of and you watch it and maybe you're like, haha. Or I do kind of feel very uncomfortable. Like, I see that they're way younger than I am. And they feel like bait, like jail bait, proper jail bait. And it is an issue, but everyone is obviously closing their eyes, and or the whole issue with James Charles actually grooming guys regardless of their sexuality is absolutely awful. And I have no idea how he's not in jail yet, and I have no idea how everyone in LA is not in jail yet either. But there's nothing I can do when it comes to such things. And for instance, when it comes to marching, I wanted to say that, for instance, people march like for one person, while thousands, 100,000s are dying in the US. So are you actually being a collective? Are you actually thinking about the well-being of your country? If you're going outside and this is the only method you claim, which will influence, let's say it is, then why aren't you wearing masks? Why aren't you social distancing? Or when it comes to the UK, I did hear that the protests when it comes to the death of the woman, I'm really sorry, I can't remember her name right now, which was killed by the police officer, and then sprouted the whole idea for the Baroness to say that all men should stay inside after 6 or 7 p.m. because they're a hazard to society and they will attack women and women want to feel safe on the streets. And then people really forget that there is a lot of sort of lesbian crime, there's a lot of woman on woman crime, there's a lot of woman on men crime. And in general, it's very naive, very stupid, very obnoxious to think that in a society, women are harmless. You yourself, if you believe in that ideology, you yourself are perpetuating the stereotypes that you are fighting against. So if you're saying that a woman is a fragile thing and human being, then you're kind of spitting the same rhetoric but spinning it in your way. So how come you are different from someone who says that women are weak and fragile? So yeah. So back to communism. I wanted really to focus on the fact that, well, so if we do not have that collective mentality, where we do not care about other people, and we do not unite when it comes to other causes which we do not care about, or when it comes to actual things such as COVID, which simply requires us to wear a mask, be considerate, stay at home, work from home whenever possible. And even those who do go and work, they do it because they need to. And obviously, there has been a rise in domestic violence, there has been a rise in mental health issues. But at the same time, like when I walked the other day, I think it was actually 8th March, the International Women's Day. And I saw a poster which claimed that I think something like, I think it was 60, but I have a very bad memory, so I'm really sorry for this. So let's just say X number, which is really, really below Y, which is the current amount of deaths in Portugal due to COVID, right? And they were like, X amount of women died since January due to domestic violence. Open up the confinement. And I was like, well, that's all fine and dandy, but X is way below Y. I'm not saying that domestic violence should be allowed, but it should be fought within the conditions that we have. So, for instance, if you see that someone is a victim of domestic violence, there's a lot of hotlines, there's a lot of shelters. We should open then more shelters. We should open more other things, like the COVID numbers are going down. Therefore, we need to start opening up things, in which Portugal is doing indeed. So when it comes to such things, there are ways to fight it, right? Or there's a lot of apps, there's a lot of, and I do understand that it is very difficult for victims of domestic abuse or abuse in general to speak up and to be believed even, because I was a victim of abuse and I do understand how hard it is. And specifically, when it's a close person or a relative, like I still do not understand like why when it comes to family we're supposed to forgive our victims. Sorry for the victims are supposed to forgive the survivors, and the survivors can walk free and do whatever the fuck they want, and because they're abusing family, they're okay to abuse it. Which brings me to my next point, which is, why are we not treating people equally? It's that simple. Like when it comes to LGBT issues, we're still divided. We're still thinking, I'm not saying that we should treat everyone equally. We should really make sure that everyone can see everything equally, meaning everyone should have opportunities which are equal to the other one. If they need extra help with money, they should get it. If they need benefits, they should get it. But the more I grow into this society and the more I see the world, the more I see that my ideas of communism, my ideas of an ideal society are just impossible. And I'm not saying this because I'm like a fatalist or anything. What do I want? I just want free healthcare for everyone, which will be beneficial, which will help people, which, for instance, in Portugal, we do have. I do want normal migration issues. I want just people to be accepted. I want people not to look at the neighbor's grass, which might be greener, and say that I want that grass, but rather that they will get the same grass and not be jealous, and in a way they won't want to think like, oh, the neighbor's grass is greener, so I'm not just gonna make my grass greener, but I'm gonna put a fence and tell the neighbor that he's an asshole because I'm worth it. That is not what society should be about. And specifically in such times as COVID, it really exposes human nature, the countries, for who they really are and for where the ideology stands. So if a country is not willing to support all the people across the board, and I'm not saying that a country must, if they don't have enough funds or if they need help, but when it comes to corrupt countries which are filled with bribery and stuff and an average person cannot get a vaccine due to the corrupt political system up and through, that does not mean that the people are at fault. Then it's a government problem or a structural societal problem. And I also wanted to say that when it comes to such things, I don't know what can be changed. Like, I probably worry about it too much, but I realized that, and this is like what made me wake up, kind of like shuddering with thoughts that even when you go from small studies about children, they want to be an influencer, they want to be famous for doing nothing. That's not good. That's nothing good. Like, we don't need a cult of image. We don't need a cult of individuality. At the end of the day, like, I just want to live. Like, the reason I'm even doing this YouTube channel is because I just want to be heard. And I don't want me to be heard. I want the struggles that I've had to be heard. There's a reason why I don't, like, expose all my data or dox people or whatever, or want to be doxed. It's literally because I just want to be left alone. It just so happens that I am so fed up with society, and I'm so fed up with the abuse that I've had over numerous years, is that I just want to change the world a bit. But if I know that I can push way for someone else to do those changes, I will be content. And I am speaking sort of as a way for people to look around and think if they are doing enough for society rather than just themselves. So yeah. So in reality, I wasn't apparently talking about all of communism, even though I do think it's unachievable due to the fact that we have a cult of individualism instead of trying to help society as a whole. We demonize work, we demonize many things, and we try to see value when it comes to people through their work, through their money, through their tags, through whatever the fuck they're wearing, even, which is really contradictory considering the fact that I run a fashion blog. But I still make a point of not really discussing like the big brands or like how awesome it is to own a Supreme shirt. Or the other day I was talking to someone else about ethical packaging and ethical products, the fact that we actually do not know what's ethical and what's not. Like, how can I know that my product is 100% slave free? How do I know if the talc was not done by slaves? I don't. Our society is completely flawed. And I generally and genuinely do not believe that our society is even capable of doing something like communism. Like, sure, I have faith in Portugal because I saw that during these trying times people did come together and people did do an effort in order to stop the numbers from growing, which was amazing, and I'm very proud that I happen to be living in this country. So yeah. But at the same time, there were still going raves, there were still youths which were protesting whatever the fuck they want at this point. To be heard when they don't understand that people are dying. So people are saying, even though people are dying, I want less people to die. And it's like, well, people are still dying. Don't you think you should address the mass? And while you're at it, why don't you treat everyone equally? Meaning, love thy neighbor. No? And I'm not religious, I'm just like quoting things. So that at least one of my points can land to everyone who's watching this video. So regardless of what structure you want society to be in, you should really understand that everyone deserves a roof, everyone deserves food, everyone deserves shelter, everyone deserves equal rights when it comes to movement, regardless of race, color, gender identity, and sexuality, of course, and polyamory, not polyamorous. So I truly wish that I would just wake up and people would care about other people, but I don't think that's ever going to be the case these days. Or maybe I'm just being pessimistic. But yeah, if you're not wearing a mask, if you are protesting to stop people dying. So there's this really good quote which was used by feminists, actually. Yay, go feminists, you did something right. But anyway, which is like, bombing for peace is like fucking for virginity. I think that was a quote. Anyway, so you're saying that you want lives to be protected by killing more lives? That's not how it works, sweetheart. So yeah. So please be conscious. Please stay safe. If you find ways, for instance, to raise awareness about domestic abuse without you going out in the street or you helping domestic survivors to get out, for instance, I have in the past helped someone with domestic abuse to get outside while being in another country. So you can do that. If you really want me to know how can I help with those things, I don't do anything special. You just have to contact, if you're LGBT or if you're in the need of a shelter, you just have to contact a shelter and the right person will help you. If you need help in a domestic abuse situation, yeah, you can contact me and I will guide you through the steps. Obviously, please tell me your country so I can fucking understand the laws and stuff. But my point is you can still do it from your own home and from your own safety and assessing the situation from a very far place rather than going out on the street and holding some dumb shit sign. Seriously. So, stop caring about yourself, care about others.